Welcome to Blockchain Unpacked. Blockchain Unpacked is a videocast and podcast series held in partnership between RegTech Associates and Crystal Blockchain. Join Jason Baud and Marina Kaustova every month and explore the real-world impact of criminal activity beyond the blockchain. During the series, we will introduce you to a range of experts who will help analyze regulatory effectiveness and share the latest news, trends and predictions in a digestible format to keep you in the know.
Welcome to Blockchain Unpacked. This show features expert insights from prominent leaders in the blockchain, regulatory and technology industries. And I'm delighted to co-hosting this show today with Jason Baud, CEO of RegTech Associates. Jason and I will kick off by covering some of the developments in the Web3 space that caught our eye in the past few weeks. And then we'll be joined by this week's special guest, Rob Moore, former communications specialist in the British Army that turned private investigator with a particular focus on the crypto-related hacks. So without further ado, Jason, how are you? And what's been happening in your world since the last time checked out?
Hey Marina, it's good to see you again. I can't believe we're on episode 4 already. It's really flown by. I don't know about you, episode 3 was a lot of fun, right? A gift from the gods with the crew from BCB Group. So yeah, I'm doing really well. My attentions, I think like many people, certainly in Northern Europe, are starting to turn towards a summer vacation. So I'm sort of either ramping up or ramping down for that, depending on which way you look at it. But while I've been doing that, I can't help thinking about a couple of bits of news that I've seen and whether it's a signal of the crypto industry growing up and maybe bouncing back from the crypto winter. So maybe if I share a couple of those data points, I'd love to hear your view on that. The first thing I observed was a couple of weeks ago. I mean, there's been loads of news in the EU and the European Parliament and the Commission. But a couple of weeks ago, a piece of news sort of snuck pretty much under the radar that the European Parliament have struck a deal on changes to capital requirements regulations. They're known as the CRR and CRD rules, and they're pretty heavyweight rules. They apply to banks about how they risk weight their assets and how they set aside capital to offset any risk of those assets. And the agreement they've struck up is an agreement on how crypto-related assets are risk-weighted. And I think this may show that the crypto industry is growing up. I mean, what it really allows is banks and digital asset providers to risk weight and hold crypto assets on their balance sheet and with some certainty. So I think that's fantastic for regulated firms that want to hold those assets to have that certainty. And the second piece of news was more on the fundraising side. So there's a digital asset exchange called Bitpanda Pro. They're not one of the big ones. They're sort of 30, 40 in the rankings by trading volume, but they raised 30 million euros of funding and spun out from their parent company. They're also becoming a MiFID trading venue. So these guys trade digital assets, but also trade across digital fiat currencies and market pairs. So, great to see a digital exchange getting fundraising. Great to see the holding of digital assets getting some treatment in the way that traditional finance. So I don't know about you, but I think that's the signs, some glimmers of hope about maybe the crypto winter starting to ease a little bit and the crypto industry growing up. What do you think? What's your view?
There's certainly something brewing up. That's true. And of course, halving is happening next year, and we all have seen, and it's logical, to expect a lot of optimism on the market, related to this moment. However, we're still in this down cycle for the venture financing, right? Which clearly affects that. And, that makes me think that it might be interesting that, actually crypto positivity might turn and help the tech segment actually to liven up as well. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. And I clearly see some interesting signals also. For example, it's been surprising to see that Hong Kong's banking regulators started applying pressure to their lenders, including HSBC and Standard Chartered, to actually start taking crypto customers as clients. And again, on the flip side of what's happening in the United States, that's definitely an interesting signal. And we're having a lot of customers in APAC, and they're also expressing some optimistic views on what to expect. And another big thing that happened in the last weeks, of course, it's BlackRock filing for the spot Bitcoin ETF. And why this is exciting, we have seen companies filing for this before. The thing is that BlackRock has an excellent track record of actually approved requests. So I think the majority of them, like more than 95% of them, have been approved. So it is, some people express the opinion that it is very unlikely that this kind of application has been put forward without a certain degree of confidence that it will get approved. So I think that event also was causing a lot of again, a lot of positivity and a lot of optimism in this space, which is, of course, I'm happy to see. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's really interesting as well. On the show, obviously, we're going to be talking about investigations today, and investigations by the nature almost focus on the negative side, right? The crime and the chasing down of the crime. So I think it's really important that we talk about the positivity that's happening in the crypto industry and in the blockchain analytics industry. So they're really good data points. The other thing that caught my eye is just very quickly the FCA. So most people know who they are, but one of the two regulators in the UK recently wrote to any crypto asset firm operating in the UK and warned them about an up and coming change in regulation where any crypto asset firm marketing to UK consumers, regardless of where they're registered, so regardless of where their headquarters are, where they're regulated or registered, if they're marketing to UK consumers, they have to follow some regulations that are coming in later this year, known as the financial promotions regime. And it's worth noting, the reason that's important is because up until now, many regulators, including the FCA, have really been limited to making sure that firms only operate and adhere to AML and counterterrorism legislations, whereas this is really giving them the power to enforce unfair or illegal promotions. And once that regulation and regime comes into force, there's some very specific ways that those firms have to either communicate and market their products via an authorized person, which is a regulated person within a regulated business, or they have to prove that they're exempt. And I think if we look back in some of the news around in the past across the world about influencer marketing of crypto assets, and the Kim Kardashian famous case where she was fined over $1 million for promoting a scam project. There's quite a few examples of that. So this really makes sure that at least in the UK, that should not happen, or if it does happen, it will be supervised and enforced and ultimately prosecuted. So again, hopefully another sign of some tightening, but for a good reason, to protect consumers and give them more confidence in the broader crypto industry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is true. And also, again, this vector continues going on while United States is figuring out, what to do next, and is quite busy with these, discussions about, what is what and how to observe and to interpret certain actions of the companies based in the United States. Other countries are taking advantage, yeah. And also, like, I'm on the positive side today. It was very surprising also for me to see that actually Andreessen Horowitz announced that they are opening their first international office in the UK, especially because of the regulatory scrutiny on the cryptocurrencies in the United States. So, I mean, that's a very bold move, and again, that was very much supported by the government as well. And as I understand, the Prime Minister also welcomed this move, and he publicly stated that yes, this is very important for us to develop Web3. And of course, tightening up the regulation absolutely makes sense in this context. So yeah, happy to see that and welcoming it.
Yeah, it's really interesting as well. I mean, you're all around the world and sitting in continental Europe, and it's really interesting. Obviously, I'm based in the UK, so you tend to have a bit of a local focus, but it's really interesting seeing you've got Zug and Crypto Valley in Switzerland. They've taken a really strong position and a regulatory certainty position. And it's really interesting to see almost like the jostling of the different countries around the EU for like being friendly to commerce and friendly to innovation and friendly to crypto. So yeah, that's really big news on A16Z being in the UK. Super excited. I hope that has a real sort of growth effect, not just in the UK, but wider out into Europe as well. Yeah, it's a great piece of news. And so, Marina, what's been going on in your world and with Crystal Blockchain since we spoke last time?
Oh yeah, we are we're buzzing with activity recently. Our team is growing, and we are right now finding ourselves in an interesting position where we are, of course, the MiCA was, we saw that coming in, but now we need to look forward, what's next and what are the other aspects of the regulation that are right now not very much covered by existing regulatory frameworks. And that brought us to, of course, NFTs. NFTs have been around for quite a lot of time, and we have seen ups and downs for this particular segment of technology. And my personal belief is that we're not done with NFTs, but not probably in the form of representation of art. There is so much more to do with this particular again piece of technology. But we started thinking about this in Crystal, and we thought that okay, the landscape for them is really challenging. And many countries are yet to have regulate these digital assets. So actually, US regulators just said that NFTs are not immune to scrutiny. And in Europe, there is no set regulation for NFTs, but they might fall under the general cryptocurrency rules such as MiCA, right? So yeah, and NFTs start playing much bigger role right now in the financial services, and it's clear that again regulators are going to be after them for quite soon, I think. So in response to these changes, we have been building a new part of Crystal, which could provide insights on what's going on in the NFT world, particularly in the trade history and all the linked addresses. So you can get a clear view of all the trade histories, and therefore again make your assessment of where does it fall in your compliance policy. So it's a little bit again, I'm a big believer that we're going to hear about the NFTs further on, maybe even this year, quite a lot. So yeah, it's we are preparing our customers to be ready for that, and to start observing them holistically in connection to other activities, that are leading to the purchase of these NFTs.
Yeah, that's a really interesting topic. It makes me think we should maybe do, if we've got time, this in the schedule this year, maybe do a show specifically on NFTs and the risk and the opportunities they present. I know there's a number of NFT specialist marketplaces and platforms that are starting to add a lot of data and analytics inside the trading activities. So it'd be really interesting maybe to even perhaps get someone on from that runs one of these marketplaces and to talk with you, maybe at the point you're releasing the product or further down the line. I think this is a segment that's we haven't covered, and we're going to cover. It's really interesting whether it's going to fall under the purview of much of the regulations. I suspect it will fall under the financial promotion regime, right? If people are promoting an NFT sale, to consumers, it's a financial promotion, regardless of what thing is being sold. So, yeah, that's again like that, and I think we'll put that in the list for a later episode, maybe.
Sure. They are not going anywhere. That is true. Another big thing that is happening right now in our world is our announcement of the collaboration with the universities. And that's quite an unusual move in our space, but I've seen this unfolding for a while already. More and more universities, more and more students writing their theses, they are approaching us and they're asking, oh, you have so much data, you have such a unique view on this industry, and that could help us again to research it and to understand better how this huge industry actually operates and works. So we've been working with the universities like always, supporting them in their research, and you may see some of these articles and documents actually already published. But we decided that, okay, we really have to support these institutions in on their path of, again, including blockchain analytics and generally blockchain in the academia research. So yeah, we just decided that for the universities, we're going to be supporting them as much as possible, giving them the data that we have, and facilitating these kind of investigations that are leading again to the academia research. And the fruits of this collaboration, they already begun to emerge. So the recent partnership with Crystal, the paper that was called "The Tale of Two Markets: The Investigation of the Ransomware Payments Economy." It was done by the students, and it is designed to explain how the traction of the destination of the ongoing transactions can be happening, and how different strategies are being utilized by various ransomware groups to actually launder money. So yeah, our mission here is actually to spur more of such explorations done by the students and done by universities. And actually, I can see how this can clear the path for the technological and financial breakthroughs as well. So yeah, I think it's important that we are contributing to the new generations of the innovators, thinkers, and I'm happy to share data that Crystal has with them.
Yeah, great. I mean, that's a great commitment to academia, to the next generation of professionals that are going to enter the market. So I applaud you. Congratulations. It's a great initiative.
Thank you so much, and I really hope but that move will bring even more attention to among students, among young people to actually join blockchain analytics space and maybe become an investigator and figure out how they can contribute to this space.
So you're developing the pipeline of next generation talent to follow along the lines of the gentleman we got coming on soon, right? So everyone better watch out. We got these bright, young, talented things who understand blockchain analytics straight away. So amazing.
That is true. That is true. And yeah, you're right. It's a perfect time to bring in this week's guest. So welcome, Rob. Rob is a former communication specialist in British Army. He now provides cybersecurity consultancy and investigation services using open source intelligence. Rob provides forensic reports for use in court to assist asset recovery for victims of online fraud, and also provides training and consultancy to reduce the impact of the online targeting of fraud. Welcome, Rob. It's great to have you with us.
Thank you.
And first and foremost, how are you doing, and what has been going on in your world for the last couple of weeks?
Well, certainly never a dull moment, that's for sure. Going to be busy working with lawyers, barristers' chambers, and also the victims directly of crypto scams and crypto hacks. The scam space is huge, and unfortunately, it's as investigators and also I see law enforcement are on the back foot in terms of tackling it and how vast it is. I've got about 10 active cases at the minute and growing, where clients have lost vast sums of funds which have been converted from fiat to crypto to be placed onto what they believe is a trading platform. Unfortunately, that's all fake. Then they use the blockchain to launder those funds into various wallets that I then use Crystal blockchain to trace to find out where they've gone and were last seen, to then steer the lawyers and barristers through the court process to hopefully get asset recovery.
So, Rob, I mean, what led you to this path in life? You're a sleuth and a private investigator of in the crypto and blockchain world. What led you to this point in your career?
Sure. So left the military a few years ago. Went into sort of the weird, wonderful world of corporate security. I say sort of general fraud investigation, but it was still fascinating. You know, companies got someone bad amongst the mix who's got their hands in the wallet, whatever. But I had my first crypto case about 2.5 years ago, and straight away I could see something. This was part of something bigger. And working with lawyers and barristers, we sort of unearthed the sort of large scale of this, and then having to sort of teach myself and the team rapidly about blockchain, that sort of thing. What is this? Why are the bad guys using it? And then prior to using the likes of Crystal, having to use sort of open source blockchain explorers, which are okay to an extent, but you need that enhanced tool to, especially to the tactics that the bad guys use to launder the funds. It's quite extensive, certainly with some of the hacks as well. The likes of Lazarus Group and that sorts, who are very, very good in this space in terms of being able to steal it and then move it around to try and thwart someone like me or law enforcement going after them. So yeah, after that first case, then started getting more and more and more. And to be honest, I've lost count how many I've done, which especially in the scams. And it's the same modus operandi each time. This is sort of two parts to it in terms of it's either sort of the romance fraud, where you meet someone online and they sort of quite quickly, actually, they'll try and entice you onto this trading platform that they're promoting. And they're just trying to get you to part with your money, convert it to crypto, to then make you believe it's going on to the website and the trading platform. But when you start to do the blockchain analytics, straight away you see that that's not happening. It's being laundered in the background, and what you're seeing on the screen, all fake. The trouble is, the psychology of this is clients want to believe, and they're seeing great rewards from their investment, doubling their money and that sort of thing. They're trading, they're buying shares, but it's all fake. And on the other side, you've got the romance fraud as the way of getting them onto the platform. The other way is fake adverts. And we've seen this week with quite a new tactic with deepfakes being used with Martin Lewis from Morning Britain, etc., who's not Happy Bunny, which is quite rightly so, because he's already been used. I've seen his face being used, as well as other stars being promoting fake trading platforms. Even members of my own family have come to me and said, "Oh, look at this," and I'm like, "Oh my goodness, no, that's fake. You know what I do for a living." It's all, and all they've got to do is get lucky a few times. So once you make the victims make comms with these people, the sales team are very, very pushy, and they're very good at what they do in convincing people to part with their cash, to convert it to crypto, and then to start sending it to their crypto addresses. Now, if you're not very technical savvy, or certainly crypto savvy, they even can remote desk into your laptop or whatever and do it for you. Set up accounts on exchanges to convert your cash to crypto, and then literally step by step, do it for them to send the crypto to their address, and then with a make believe of going to be investing. Now, what happens once the victim starts to realize that it's not real? When they start to realize it's not real, when they see these massive funds in the sort of top right hand corner of what they think they've made, double, tripled their money, whatever, they start to want to withdraw it, as you would. These spurious taxes and that sort of thing suddenly appear out of nowhere, and it's just a ruse to bleed more money out of the victim. Now, if the person suddenly cuts all comms with that sales team and trading platform, they'll then have what's called the double scam: a fake asset recovery company, fake law firms, people pretending to be law enforcement, or some blockchain authority that is not real. Will get in contact with them. It's likely to be the same gang behind it, and then further bleed money from them. To unfreeze your funds, sends us another £30,000, etc., etc. It's just another way. And unfortunately, this tactic works very, very well. And clients will often come to me who've lost absolutely everything, And these scams ruin lives, absolutely ruin lives. It's life savings gone. I've got a client who's lost his house off the back of this. Clients in tears talking about suicide and that sort of thing. So it is really, really devastating. And unfortunately, they try to go to law enforcement, and this is global. I have clients all over the world, and quite often they get palmed off. They don't necessarily understand the crypto space and that sort of thing, and I think, there's nothing we can do, which is a shame. But all is not lost. There are good investigators, good lawyers, good barristers, and using certainly good tools like Crystal massively helps in terms of sort of demonstrate to the court and to the victims of what really happened.
Wow. I mean, I've got loads of questions, but Marina, I'm sure you have as well. You go first.
Well, yeah, this is, the effect of these cameras is truly devastating. And of course, my thinking is that it's a shame that we don't put investigators, more in the media and on these kind of podcasts, where they speak about this work, because it's really important for people, first, to be more aware of that happening, and second, to understand that the help can be provided to them. Because sometimes people, I can't imagine how many people are just, walking away with that. So that's really a big thing, and I'm happy that you are helping these people. But maybe you can elaborate a little bit more on the process, how this starts. So you're getting someone reaching out to you. By that moment, do you, like in the majority of cases, do you know something about the group that is operating? How likely is that it is a piece of the bigger puzzle? And how do you move forward with this whole process?
Sure. So the sort of start points that I need to kick off an investigation is the profiles, phone numbers, and that sort of thing that you use to communicate, which invariably are false. Okay, they're never going to be using real names and that sort of thing. And the most important part with the sort of crypto side of things is the transaction IDs. Which transaction ID, completely unique alphanumeric set of characters, which will determine this transaction is what you made to the fraudsters. I can then consider, with using Crystal, begin the follow of where the funds went. Now, to do the investigation and subsequent sort of court report that the lawyers and the barrister will need, it's sort of broken down in sort of two parts. First off is to confirm fraud has taken place. This isn't just a bit of a unfortunate trade gone wrong or whatever, or unfortunate investment. It's definitely a fraudulent platform. The people you're talking to are not real, etc. Break that down for the court and for the barrister to sort of take the judge through. And then the second part, but the most important part, where did the funds go? And this is where using Crystal is hugely useful with the visualization of it all to sort of break it down. It was moved around the blockchain. What we're looking for is the off-ramp. Well, maybe the off-ramp is where they're converting that crypto potentially to cash, or use an exchange to swap it to another coin to then further launder on a different blockchain. But the point at which I see, the last point at which I see the funds is usually a crypto exchange. And that's why, because then that address, which we don't know who the persons are behind it, the exchanges can assist us with this by disclosure and providing the sort of KYC details, and hopefully potentially freezing the wallets as well as the court process goes ahead. That's why I need to, in the reports, needs to be very, very clear as to why we are going after that individual, how I got there from the start point. And the first piece pays into that, this is definitely a fraud. Now, in terms of the question in regards to the who's behind it, very large scale international organized crime groups. What would say, and I recommend a lot of my victims when they come to me, is to watch the recent BBC documentary called The $1 Billion Scam. I was on a panel last week with one of the producers of that, and they sort of closed forum. Absolutely fascinating. They did a really, really good job in breaking down on how huge this problem is. And I see how huge it is in terms of looking just on the blockchain. I guess clients come to me, he's lost 100 grand, a lot of money. But as you're seeing it moving along, you're seeing it being merged with other funds from other nefarious places, and the scales, the decimal point keeps moving until it's some point in the billions. So they are making a lot of money. For them, crime pays at the minute, for sure.
Rob, I mean, it's really fascinating to hear you speak. The question I was going to ask was about, you know, at the very start of the process. So, are you generally engaged by individuals, by law firms, by a combination of both? And you know, I'm not playing down any loss of money through fraud is a serious matter, but
Yeah.
is there a sort of threshold that, you know, people go, well, actually, I've lost that. I'll put that down to experience, but this requires investigation. You know, maybe that's a stupid question, but be
No,
interested
no,
in
sure.
hearing your point of view on that.
So, as part of my jobs, I consult at Grant Thornton in the large sort of crypto asset recovery team there, and you know they look at a lot of the bigger cases. But then I will get direct contacts through the website, etc., of people who have lost, say, 20 grand and that sort of thing. You know, to them, and if I lost 20 grand, I'd be devastated. And conversations having recently in terms of can we sort of group a lot of these together, because I invariably see, you know, it may be one website, but I know that they're part of the same other sites, you know, and same with the attribution on Crystal, I see the same addresses being used, therefore it's the same people. So it's been able to sort of, you know, potentially group these individuals. But in terms of threshold, I mean, yeah, litigation in the UK is expensive, right? It's a long drawn out process, but doing what we can to try and speed that up, open up dialogue with the exchanges to assist us when we find these addresses that have had, you know, stolen funds go through them. You know, trying different ways to try and smooth this process over and make it more streamlined for the victims is something I'm working on a lot.
Yeah, thank you. And then sort of moving on, I mean, you've touched on this a little bit, but clearly your roles change, as you said at the start, from using these sort of blockchain explorers to using tools like crypto, and that, you know, there's obviously a lot of blockchain analytics tools out there. What it sounds like the blockchain analytics data and the way they present the data is really crucial to your investigation. And you know, can you build a bit of a picture of what sort of data is valuable to you? What don't you get from just the public view of the blockchain that you get from a product like Crystal?
So invariably, the bad guys will be using sort of mixing services. So it won't be just from one address to another, job done. That does happen sometimes, which is fantastic, makes my life a lot easier. But invariably, especially with the hacks, the likes of Lazarus Group, they will move that stuff around all over the place. And being able to sort of demonstrate from point A to point B with lots of bits in the middle to the judge, why have we got here? Why are we going after that person? Or trying to unmask that address to find out who the person or persons are behind it. Now, with sort of normal blockchain explorers, you can to an extent do that, but there is massive scope for error. With Crystal, you know, the visualization tool, it's made very, very, very user friendly to go from, we call it first in, first out. So it's what goes in, the next amount that goes out that's same or close to the funds, and then continue that process until we find an exchange and an address associated with that exchange. Now, to do that on a blockchain explorer, after a few hops, you're going to get, you know, a fuzzy head and could go very, very wrong. You end up going after the wrong address. And also, the big thing with Crystal is the attribution. That is really, really key. And what I mean by that is they've got looking at addresses, and they can see from directly or indirectly funds that have come from pretty nefarious and nasty things like terrorism financing and that sort of thing. That I can then use that in court and show the judge, or the barristers, and show the judge and say, look, this address has not only received stolen funds from our client, it's also been involved in a lot of other nasty stuff, to sort of further add weight to the case.
Great. Yeah, thank you.
Do you see growing understanding among judges in relation to the blockchain over time?
Yeah,
that's
it's the more and more we do, and there are some judges who are fantastic. And with my report, there's a big section at the beginning now, which is explaining what crypto is and that sort of thing, and explaining the methodology in very, very fine detail, giving examples, that redacted real life examples that I've done to say this is how I follow using Crystal to get to the endpoints. So and then the investigation report will begin. So invariably the judges will see, my reports over and over and over again, and other people, and begin to have more of a better understanding. And a lot of people like to come to England to try and get their cases through here because of that, and also for various reasons. The lawyers and barristers here are very well versed in crypto and that sort of things to take it on.
Yeah, because I remember like 3 years ago, it's unimaginable what amount of work needed to be done before you can go to the court, because you really needed to explain what blockchain is. Yeah, I mean, the amount of preparation was outstanding. And of course, I assume right now things are moving in general smoother. Yeah. But I have another question to you. Comparing these investigations to the investigations that you've been doing outside of the scope of Web3, what are the key differences for you? And maybe on the other side, what stays the same for you, and how your previous experience actually helps you right now and helps you move forward?
Yeah, so I mean, my background being in the military, going after bad guys in the desert, right? Sounds cheesy. Then I'll go after bad guys online. I will invariably go on off the back of my background of going after these sort of people in person. Now, in terms of the difference between the sort of crypto cases and previous fraud may be just sort of one individual, whether these crypto scams are large scale international organized crime groups who have got footprints all over the place, including in the UK, whether it be shell companies, individuals, the sales team, where the website's hosted, where the crypto is ending up, then that can be all over the place. They're very well organized. Now, as you'll see, if you watch the $1 billion scam, the German law enforcement, there's a unit there who are doing very, very good things in this space and trying to break down what's called the Milton Group. But I still see that they're still operating on a huge scale. It's a vast task. So the differences are, just sheer volume of this is massive. And just for me as a small firm, even with working with Grant Thornton, the size of them, it's a very uphill task to try and I don't think it's going to go away anytime soon. In fact, it's probably going to get worse, I think, with the advent of AI and deepfakes and that sort of thing. But that's to trick people into investing on these sort of things.
And I assume the speed of response and reaction is also critical here. And, I can see this in many cases that, the scammer moves the money and then you really need to move super fast. And it doesn't matter what time of the day it is.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, sometimes it's especially with the hacks where funds will sort of halt private addresses, and they could be there for weeks, months, who knows? And all of a sudden, starts moving again. We've got to be on it. So it's challenging.
Yeah.
In a way, from the outsiders looking in, Rob, it seems to be that either I at least see a lot of news stories about exchanges engaging in locking specific wallets that they're hosted that store funds. But so I guess it's either you need to move quickly where you can control, or watch for a very long time where you can't control, right? It's almost these two ends of the spectrum. It's probably react within minutes, if not hours, or wait out quite a period of time. What's in any of your cases, what's the longest sort of time period where you've seen some dormancy in the chain of and you probably can't answer because they're probably still going on, right? But how long do the criminals leave stuff dormant and then start activating it?
They tend to like to cash out fairly quick, or move it to an exchange, certainly, because of the sheer volume of it, I suppose. It's quite fairly rare that it's on private addresses and held because they want to buy nice things, I imagine, and fund their further illicit activities.
I have another question to you. You have quite a lot of experience right now with all these cases for all previous years. How do you see the balance between people who got like amateurs who got access to some funds that don't belong to them, and they just trying rushing out to convert this into cash, versus really sophisticated and organized and very technical savvy criminal groups. Do you see this shift?
Yeah, I mean, so to try and answer that is very with disclosure, we'll get sort of two types. You get your money mules, and you get the actual sort of henchmen. Now, the money mules will potentially be trafficked individuals who are forced to do this at gunpoint, sometimes unknowing, or other times you can see that it's being cashed out, and through OSINT they're living a very nice lifestyle. Whereas the money mules, it tends to be they then swap it onto another chain to then further launder, and it's just to try and thwart me, others, law enforcement, etc. Because on chain you can only see it to a point. It comes onto the exchange, and then through the help of the exchange, they can then tell us what's occurred next, essentially.
And Rob, what's your thought process on how cooperative the exchanges are now? I heard a story actually from a founder of a blockchain company who lost a significant amount of money through a hack, and this was a number of years ago, 6-7 years ago, so quite early on. And he went to an exchange, and the exchange was like, well, it's gone out of we're not the custodian of this asset anymore, and there was a valid transfer request, so nothing we can do, sorry. And that actually made him go and set up his own blockchain analytics company, which is a great backstory on what makes a founder driven. But how are you seeing the VASP and exchanges cooperating now? Is it a sort of night and day scale from back in the day?
So some are good, some are very helpful, some just not, and just sometimes even with court orders just go radio silent, which is just unacceptable. Because I see not only stolen funds from my client, but all sorts of other nasty stuff from the attribution from Crystal going through the said exchange. And the sheer fact of not responding, not replying, just makes it even more suspicious. Why are you not helping us here? You've got a victim of fraud, of a crime. Why are you not responding? The other side, some of the big ones are becoming more helpful, because I think a sort of wider crypto space, it needs to be cleaned up. Move away from this sort of Wild West type sort of scenario, and because crypto's not going anywhere, right? And increased regulations, like you talked about earlier, let's clean this space up, and to help that is the exchanges, because they're using, the criminals are using those exchanges as a vehicle for fraud, to off ramp, cash out, or just cross chain swap. So I think it's some of the ones, and I won't name them for obvious reasons. They need to step up essentially and to help out, not just likes of civil law enforcement, but also civil, but also law enforcement as well. I know that they're just doing the same, radio silent, not helping, and where's that going to end?
It'll almost be good. I'm not suggesting you do, but it'll almost be good. I mean, I've seen a couple of sites that rate the trustworthiness of exchanges. Right, it'd almost be good to have that sort of signal in a way of, I'm dealing with this exchange. Yes, they're trustworthy in terms of maybe keeping my assets safe from a custodian perspective, but are they collaborating with law enforcement? Are they meeting the regulations? Something like that already exists. So if it does, please someone get in touch and let me know. But I don't know if you're familiar with such trust score of exchanges.
Yeah, and it needs to sort of happen if it's not already there, I suppose. Like I say, just sort of name and shame, I suppose, to get them into the sort of come away from the dark and into the light, and into the good, and move away from the Wild West.
Yeah, and Rob, maybe as a closing point, I know that for a lot of people, being involved into scam or losing money still is a big shock. And I see it everywhere that people just don't know what to do, and where to go, and where are the first steps. And they even ask us, do I even need to go to law enforcement? All of that, things that are usual to us, and we answer them, easily. For majority of the people, it's still uncharted territory. Maybe what would be your advice, your recommendation in this case?
Sure. So I've got a couple of examples active at the minute with elderly victims who've had a lot of money taken from them, and the penny doesn't fully drop sometimes. They still want to believe and hang on. And this isn't just the elderly victims, it's all. And they still think if they pay a little bit more money, they'll get their stuff released. It's please, please, please don't give any more money. If anything else, don't give them another penny, because it's all a lie. Or if someone's thinking of investing or has started communicating, just take that pregnant pause, go and stop and have a look and have a good Google search on what you're looking at. Even if the company, their website's got a UK company on there, doesn't mean it's real. That's a tactics being used by the bad guys to entice you on. Now, what I need as an investigator, like we mentioned before, is those start points. Now, it needs to be as open and frank. I need to see everything as possible, and trust me, nothing will shock me. I'm ex-military; it won't shock me. I've seen all sorts. So, if you have been engaging and that sort of stuff, usually the WhatsApp chat and that sort of thing, showing the full history. I'm just looking for that little nugget of information that may unearth who the persons are behind it. Also, the transactions. Make sure I need to know everything that you've done. Don't hold anything back. Give it all to me. And as I said, do not give them another penny. They will try any way, shape, form possible, pretend to be the police. And now, don't give them a penny. Just all stop. Don't tell them investigation is taking place. Continue communicating if needs be, or just go radio silent. You're one of many, many, many people that I'll have. There'll be one operator may have like 500 victims on the books. So don't worry, you just suddenly drop off the grid. They will harass you and hound you. Just ignore it if needs be.
And great, one final one from me, Rob. Where should people find you if they want to get in touch and talk to you a little bit more about their situation? Where would they find you?
So I've got a website which is arrowsgates.io, and I'm on LinkedIn as well. And I've only recently put my head above the parapet. I've been sort of in the hiding behind and not have my face out there. But this fraud space has got so vast that I felt necessary to sort of come out and say, right, here I am. Here's where to come if you need help. Because you see so many victims who just don't know where to go. Unfortunately, they will go to action fraud and that sort of thing, and nothing generally really happens. So yeah, just give me a shout out on LinkedIn or come to the website arrowsgate.io and see if we can help.
We'll put your website and LinkedIn profile in the show notes as well, Rob. Thank you so much for joining us today and shining a light on this very serious sort of part of the crypto industry, and with professionals like you, I know you'll start to help people and we'll start to clean up the industry. So special thanks to you. We also hope our listeners enjoyed it. Tune in for next month's episode, which is going to be episode 5. We'll be unpacking the travel rule and talking about trust and the TRP protocol. So see you next time. Thank you, Marina. Thanks, Rob. Have a great day.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Bye.